Story 1. A story of accidental sweet revenge. Recently, there was a protest near my city against the expansion of an open pit mine into a natural and highly biodiverse area. Protesters went to occupy the mine, trespassing, and slept there. Now I fully support their cause, and I truly believe protests have their place in most countries. But there are few reasons why I think their approach to the situation is dumb. Namely, the fact my country is one of the rare truly direct democracies in the world. If you want something changed, literally anyone can go collect signatures for it, and it gets put up for a vote if you collect enough of them. The number is relatively low and very achievable. By extension, the government tends not to really respond to illegal protests, strikes, etc. I know this is not essential to the story, but I'm simply trying to illustrate how this protest wasn't doing much other than putting people in danger and feeding the egos of a bunch of idiots who look like they're cosplaying as parents' disappointments and want to make a statement. If they were out collecting signatures, I'd be the first to sign. This story starts when a friend approached me to ask me if I had a sleeping bag I could lend to her. I didn't understand that she wanted it because she was planning on going to that protest, and I would never have lent it to her had I known exactly what she was planning on doing with it, because it is clear that event could only have been a crap show. Bunch of drunk high people illegally camping on the edge of an enormous man-made cliff. Anyways, being the trusting idiot I am, I lent her the sleeping bag without second thought. She went to the protest and just left the sleeping bag lying around while she went off to do her protest-y stuff. Now the issue with leaving stuff lying around at that kind of event is that these people are also highly opportunistic anarcho-communists. The sleeping bag disappeared instantly. When my friend realized this, she went to speak to one of the organizers. By his own account, this is the conversation he had with one of the protesters. "Hey, do you know who that sleeping bag belongs to?" "No idea, you can take it." "Nice," walks off with sleeping bag. Yup, that's how selfish, inconsiderate, and stupid these people are. By the way, the organizer still doesn't understand what is wrong with what he and the protester did. I can picture this idiot thinking to himself, "It isn't her sleeping bag, it's our sleeping bag." Anyways, the sleeping bag was gone. I wouldn't care that much about it if it wasn't for the fact that the sleeping bag belonged to my grandfather, who suffered from Parkinson's disease and passed away a few years ago. I never got to know him while he wasn't in pain, and it was truly heartbreaking to grow up watching him get weaker and weaker every time I saw him. To me, that sleeping bag represented a time where he was healthy enough to go out and enjoy a weekend camping in nature. It really meant a lot to me, and I'm wondering why I lent it to anyone in the first place. Sometimes I have too much faith in people not being idiots jerks. There is literally a 0% chance of me ever seeing that sleeping bag again, and it's thrown me into a weird semi-grieving state of mind, coupled with absolute disbelief of the hypocrisy that occurred at that protest. However, there is a bright side to this story, and that bright side is called sweet, sweet revenge. Although I have to admit it was completely accidental. You see, the protesters who were occupying that mine are all very hardcore vegans, to the point of being perfectly happy going to jail over the illegal stuff they do on a regular basis to support their cause. Well, it turns out that my grandfather's sleeping bag was manufactured before synthetic insulating fillers were widespread. Suckers absolutely filled to the brim with, wait for it, goose down of all things. Down is the really soft feathers they put in bed covers, pillows, and sleeping bags to keep warm, which vegans are obviously completely opposed to as it requires killing birds. This will never bring the sleeping bag or my grandfather back. But every morning I now get to wake up and chuckle at the fact. This may be the very moment some jerk thief who happens to also be a vegan will also wake up in my grandpa's sleeping bag, only to notice a real feather is tickling the tip of his nose, and in sheer horror come to the realization that the stolen sleeping bag he has been sleeping in so comfortably is actually a huge warm pile of dead birds. This may seem cruel, but I have no respect for the jerk who did this to me. The thought of his face when he makes that discovery makes me smile at the memory of my grandfather. The sleeping bag is old and has a few holes, so this is likely to happen sooner than later. To top it all off, My grandfather worked for one of the most notorious environmentally destructive transnational corporations. I am actually slightly embarrassed that this is my heritage, and I am by no means proud of it, being a nature enthusiast, but screw it. If it means I can toast my grandfather at the expense of some stealing jerk who is literally sleeping in his own hypocrisy, I'm more than happy to do so. The thief will never know this, but it feeds my cynical sense of humor. So there you go, the story of how I got back at a thief without even meaning to. Disclaimer: this has nothing to do with veganism. I just have no respect for jerks in general. Story 2. Okay, so to preface this person is named Karen for real. My dad died in August of 2020, and my mom found herself taking long trips to see people who were vital to her support network. Grief hits us all differently. I leaned on my love of aquarium, keeping an ugly fish. She found Karen on the Rover app. She was a live-in pet sitter who would move into our family home to care for my mom's shepherd mix Leon and Mitchai, our cat. She would bring her dogs with her and would sleep in a downstairs bedroom. Karen was an interesting person from day one. I live about 30 minutes away from my mom and would swing by on my weekends to pick up my medications. I swung by one weekend while my mom was out of town and met Karen after knocking on the door. I got my meds, we spoke about my rescue project, and I left. She texted my mom, "Please don't have Gemini come over while I'm here, I'd appreciate it." Okay, weird request, but she had some trauma, so we just wrote it off as that. Everything seemed to go really well from then on. Mom would let Karen know when I was heading over, and the couple times that she didn't get the message in time, we chalked up to sucks to suck, check your phone more often. Then came a trip to Texas that I was super excited for. I had tickets to Moody Gardens to see their Arapema and saltwater displays. I had spent around $200 on 8 piranha fry that needed very special care, and I decided to put my trust in Karen. I gave her a very specific list, but the most important thing to do was to change the water every day. I had even written detailed instructions on the side of the 5-gallon fish bowl they were living in. Piranha are trashy fish and just rip and tear their food, leading to a lot of food waste that can cause ammonia spikes. We went over the list, she agreed to everything, and oddly I went to Texas with my mom. 8 days later, I returned to an absolutely disgusting bowl and ate very sick fish. I did an emergency change and called her. "Hey, when did you last do a water change? I've got some sick fish, and I need to know so I can reacclimate them." "Oh, I never did it." "What?" "Well, I was just so worried about them getting sucked up in the siphon. I just didn't want to." "I have a cell phone, you could have called me." "Well, yes, but I didn't want to interrupt your trip. You're paying me to take care of the animals." To summarize the end of that conversation, I didn't pay her for her work with the fish. My mom still paid her for her time with the other animals, but in my mind she should have contacted me instead of just deciding to not do the work I needed her to do. To be absolutely clear, it would have been healthier for the fish to just stay at my house untouched. I lost 2 fish because of her negligence. She texted my mom and went absolutely ballistic. She told her that she would never pet sit for me again because I was mean to her. To be fair, I probably was. I wasn't happy about her decision. Fast forward a year. The most notable thing that happened with Karen was that she had made some offhand comments about Leon being fat. Leon was still a puppy at the time and was going through a chonk lank phase of growth. After a trip, she took him in for an allergy shot where the vet noted that he was somewhat underweight. At this point, I started demanding that we fire Karen. The breaking point came later in 2022. I was at work when I got a call from my mom. "I'm okay, there's no need to worry." "Mom, you can't open a conversation with that, what's going on?" "I've been in the hospital since about 11 this morning. I'm going in for emergency surgery tomorrow, and I'd like you to come see me afterwards." "Mom, what are you talking about? I'm on my way right now." "You don't have to worry, just finish out your shift and get some sleep." I most definitely did not do that. I skipped out of work, packed my stuff, and rushed over to the hospital, practically breaking a land speed record on the way. I walked into the emergency department and over to a nurse. "Hey, I'm here to see my mom. Do I have the right ward?" The nurse glares at me and goes, "We are not accepting visitors for that patient, and that's that," before slamming the window in my face. At that point, I started to feel the adrenaline second wave followed by a cold rage. I knocked on the window again, and a second nurse came over. "Look, sir, we aren't accepting visitors at this time for safety reasons. Please don't make me call security." So I did the only thing I could do. I sat down and called my mom. I explained the situation, and she was equally as confused and upset as I was. She called an emergency ward nurse. I could hear their conversation through the phone. "Well, ma'am, the hospital got a phone call from someone who said she knew you and was upset that you were staying in the med-surg ward is full. She said she was going to come down with a doctor and teach us a lesson. Hospital policy is to deny visitors for patients mentioned in a threat." Oh my God, that's my dog sitter. I asked her to watch the animals today, and she just... This is so embarrassing. "Ma'am, we also have someone out front who is refusing to leave." "That's my son. Let him in." I was let in. Mom had her gallbladder removed and ended up spending a week in the hospital, and because of Karen, I had to show my ID every single time to a very lovely night security guard. This guy was literally the highlight of my visits. It was around Christmas time, and he was dressed up as Santa. I don't think he knew it, but he made every visit easier. Karen was fired shortly after Mom's hospital stay ended. Story 3. I haven't talked to my mom for a little over 1 year now, but this is the story of my mom's lies. Growing up, my mom was always in and out of jail for stealing. The last time she was arrested was in 2015. I was 19 at the time. She always said she stole to provide for our family, but we never lived in a stable home. She would just blow money on expensive gifts and tell us we aren't poor. We have this. How many poor kids have this? As we moved from hotel to hotel, growing up, I became the financially responsible child. I worked multiple jobs, got good grades, and did community service. I was able to save up $8,500 for college with multiple scholarships. During my hard work in high school, I also helped my mom with bills and paying for whatever she needed help with. When I left for college, she was arrested again and had to be dropped off in another state by my aunt for my first day of college. I asked my mom for my college money, and she said she would transfer the money when she got out. When she got out, it all magically disappeared. She blamed my dead grandmother for stealing my money. In 2019, I discovered multiple credit cards and an apartment late on bills were opened in my name. I cried to my mom about all these issues, and she comforted me and asked for more money. I gave her more money. I graduated with my BA and went to graduate school. I was able to be in graduate school for 1 year with my savings before I needed to take out Graduate Plus loans. I applied but was denied due to all the negative items on my credit score. My mom told me to just pay it off. I didn't. I dropped out instead. I was devastated, but I wasn't going to pay for other people's fun rides. I called all the credit companies and got the address for all the credit cards. It was my mom's address. When confronted, she broke down, saying it was my grandmother and how dare I blame her for this. She demanded an apology and didn't speak to me for a week. My grandmother died before all the credit cards were opened. I filed a police report against my mother, and she got arrested and is currently being interrogated. To the comments asking about why I kept giving her money. It was hard. Either help with the bills or have no electricity, water, gas, or roof over mine and my brother's heads. I didn't want to be homeless again, and I didn't want my brother to suffer either. I felt like I needed to help my family because, for so long, I had the mentality that blood was thicker than water. I know now it isn't my responsibility. I was just young and thought I was doing the best I could to provide for my family from the ages of 16 to 23. I'm 26 now. As for the credit stuff, I have had a good amount taken off till we know how things will develop with the police. Only 2 cards and 1 bill are on my credit report. Story 4. So this happened at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016. I had a best friend who really started to irritate me, condescend me, insult me, etc. When he became what we call a shift manager, I ignored it for some time, thinking that it wasn't really easy for him, having to take care of us a lot in the factory where we worked. And this is where he really ticked me off. First, I want you to understand that I am not the type of a person you can trash talk, insult, screw his life up, and not expect 3 times worse to come back. So back to the story. We had some new stuff that came to the factory on which we should work inner molds for car engine parts, and the guy who was there to teach us how to work on the mold didn't manage to teach my dear friend how to work on these molds, because the guy friend was so full of himself and egoistic that the other guy just gave up after a few days. And here is where my friend taught me how to process the mold, which was, surprise, surprise, incorrect. So the day after I get a call from the plant supervisor, cool lady, we still contact from time to time that my molds are all screwed up and that I need to come down immediately to fix them because the CEO was furious. I knew what happened. That jerk of a friend told her and the CEO that I didn't listen to what he was telling me, but that I did everything opposite what he told me to do with the molds. I was furious. Then I was told, as a last resort, that I needed to fix everything from yesterday, which means to come to work 3 hours prior, stay 3 hours later, and come the next morning 2 hours before everybody else. Of course, that is all non-paid, so it's like a big screw you to me. After the CEO and the plant supervisor lady left, my friend started to laugh at me, insulting me, and even kicking me over my head. Considering that normally I am a nice person, I don't like what I can become, and there is a fact I endured this nonsense for 3 months. That is when I snapped. For the record, I have bipolar disorder, the heavy kind, so when I tend to lose control, I really lose it. I took one of the molds and threw it in a guy's face. It's compressed sand for the record, and as he was blinded, I kicked him in the face, plexus and nuts, and one more in the ribs as he was lying down. Because there was nobody there at the time to witness the escalation, I scratched my face so that it looked like he attacked me, and I start yelling, "Help, help." The 2 from before came back just as the jerk was standing up, and I told them what happened, and that I quit effective immediately, not just for this, but also because the paycheck was late, again. The day after my mom picked me up, we loaded my stuff in the car and went home. Not a long time passes by, this friend calls me to apologize, and to return my stuff that I left in the apartment, and my money, about 350 euros, which I lended to him. I said, fine, you can come. By the time he came, I was home alone, and he threw my stuff on the wet asphalt in front of my flat and told me, "You are not getting your money back." I just told him, "We will see about that." And then he started to threaten me over Facebook, that he will screw up my mom's car brakes, that he will stab me, etc. But not long after that, the lady from the factory contacted me. She told me that the jerk quit his job and stole money from her purse, 600 euros approx, and that she wants to find him. Of course, I know where he lives. A few days later, the lady picks me up, and we head out to his place. As we approached his driveway, he tried to drive out, so she blocked him, and I rushed outside. But his parents, who are really nice people, asked me to not do this, and begged me to come inside the house. Inside, the parents tell me that they will give me and the lady money, which we refuse, because he is the one who loaned it from us. He promises to pay us back next month. Later, his parents told me that he works now in a factory where we worked before this job, and that his license plates, insurance, and technical on the car were expired. The next month, I contact him over Facebook to ask him, "Where is my money?" And he tells me point blank, "Go screw yourself. You are not getting anything from me. You can call the cops, but you will never see the money." That is exactly what I did. I placed an anonymous call to the police station near where he lives, gave the license plate because I remembered it vividly, car description, and that he almost crashed into us and was speeding well above the limit. The next day I found out from some of our mutual friends that he was chased after by police, arrested, driver's license revoked for 2 years, and had to pay a fine of €3,000, plus the car was impounded. I told the lady from the factory that he was arrested and else without the part where I snitched on him, and she was well satisfied. I didn't tell anybody about this, but I was just filled with joy. I know he was now screwed up, and surely he lost his job and his parents disowned him. That is what you get for treating your friends like that. Story 5. I work in customer support for a company that provides specialized software to major players in the healthcare industry. Our clients aren't your average users, they're hospitals, clinics, and medical centers, where downtime can have serious consequences. I've been with the company for 5 years and know our software inside and out, so I'm often able to troubleshoot unusual problems and get things back on track without a hassle. A few months ago, though, a new supervisor named Alex joined us. He was fresh from a corporate management program and came in with grand ideas about efficiency and productivity. In his mind, the solution to our slow response times was simple: a script-only policy. According to him, every client interaction needed to be scripted to prevent wasting time on unnecessary advice. No more custom solutions, no additional steps, no thinking outside the box. If a client's issue wasn't in the script, we were to log it, escalate it, and have them wait for a callback. When Alex announced the new policy, I raised my hand, explaining that most clients call us precisely because they're dealing with specific, time-sensitive issues. Sticking rigidly to the script would just frustrate them and, in many cases, fail to solve their problems entirely. Alex didn't budge. "Everyone follows the script, no exceptions," he said, smiling in that overly confident way that made it clear he thought he was reinventing the wheel. "If even our biggest client calls, you follow the script." Fast forward a couple of weeks. One morning, I pick up a call and am greeted by the chief executive officer of one of our top clients, a massive healthcare network we've worked with for years. They hold a multi-million-dollar contract with us, and losing them would be catastrophic. The chief executive officer is calling in a panic because their entire system is down. The glitch they're dealing with is blocking patient records and diagnostics, putting patient care at risk. This isn't just a technical issue, it's affecting people's health. As soon as he describes the issue, I recognize the problem. It's a known bug with a straightforward, 5-minute workaround, something I've handled a dozen times before. But here's the catch: the fix isn't in the script. I'm immediately torn. My instincts tell me to help him, to do my job and prevent a disaster. But Alex's strict orders echo in my head: follow the script. No exceptions. If I help, I risk my job. If I don't, I risk this client's contract and possibly lives. So, I do exactly as Alex told me to do. I go through the script, step by step. The chief executive officer is losing patience fast. As I go through basic troubleshooting steps he clearly doesn't need, he interrupts, asking why I'm wasting time. I explain the policy. I'm only allowed to offer solutions that are in our script. If this doesn't fix it, I can escalate the case, and someone will call you back within 24 hours. He goes silent, then says, "Escalate it. Now." I log the issue as required, escalating it for a callback. Within an hour, word spreads that Alex has been summoned to an emergency meeting with our department head. Apparently, the chief executive officer of our client had contacted our company's leadership directly and wasn't holding back. He demanded an explanation for the sudden drop in our service quality and threatened to take his business elsewhere. Rumor has it he even said, "If your idea of support is running through a script instead of fixing the problem, then we're done here." By the end of the day, we all received an email titled, "Script Policy Update." Effective immediately, we were now encouraged to use best judgment and to go off script as needed for high-priority issues. Alex's entire efficiency plan was scrapped on the spot, and he's now under performance review. It's safe to say he's lost any respect from our team, and I'm not sure his reputation will ever recover after that blunder. In the days that followed, The story of the client meltdown spread like wildfire through the office, growing more exaggerated with each telling. Some people said the chief executive officer threatened to sue. Others claimed he'd hinted at buying out a competitor. Regardless of the details, Alex's name became a kind of cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you put rigid policies above common sense. And as for me, well, I've been doing my job the way I always have, thinking on my feet, solving problems, and trusting my instincts. The difference now is I have a little smirk every time I think about it. After all, I was just following orders. Story 6. Me again from the animal shelter, which is a magnet for the crazy and over-entitled of the world. Enter a 60-year-old entitled grandma. She comes into our shelter with this tiny little poodle that is skin and bones, missing hair and blind and seemingly deaf. The dog looks like it died months ago and didn't know it. Well, entitled grandma brings this dog in and says it's a stray she found. We ask her the basics. Do you live in this county? Is one of the biggest questions we ask. See, what some people don't know is that every county in a state has its own county animal shelter or animal control facility. Any stray animal found must be brought to that county shelter, usually within 48 hours of finding the animal. It is illegal to take a stray animal from one county and surrender it to an animal shelter in a different county that you don't live in. Now, that being said, entitled grandma doesn't live in this county. However, she claims to have found this dog running down the road in our county. Okay, it happens. We took the dog in and I got called to do its medical exam. I make sure the dogs and cats and whatever else we get has their proper shots and medication so they don't get sick while here, or if they are sick, so we can at least start getting them healthy. This requires a lot of wrestling with big animals that can kill me if they timed it just right, who don't want to take their pill or get a shot. So I take the little poodle into the back, and the first thing I do is scan any animal coming in for a microchip. Chip comes up instantly. I research the chip, and sure enough, it's from the next county over that entitled grandma lives in. Registered to that county's animal control. This is a red flag for me. This tells me it's her dog. However, I followed through and contacted the next county's animal control. They pull up the chip number and give me the owner's name, address, and phone number. It's not entitled grandma. Okay, I think to myself, well, I've been wrong before. I called the owner on the chip. The owner isn't entitled grandma, but it turns out the owner is entitled grandma's daughter. Me, hello, is this grandma's daughter? Yes, who is this? Yeah, I'm me from County Animal Shelter. Are you missing a small, elderly poodle? No, I got a poodle for my mother as a present back in 2016. Did it get lost? No, your mother brought it in and told us it was a stray she found. She falsified information on a government form and abandoned her animal. These are pretty serious issues. She needs to come get her dog now. I understand, and I will call her and make sure she comes and gets her dog back. About a half hour goes by and my desk phone goes off. It's the daughter's number. I think, okay, this is them telling me they are coming back. Nope. Me, County Animal Shelter, this is me speaking. Daughter sounding very frustrated. Yes, this is me calling back. My mother isn't coming back for the dog. She says she doesn't want it anymore because she thinks it's old and ugly. She demanded I get her a teacup chihuahua instead. Well, that's between you and her. But either you or her need to come get this dog, as it's an actual crime to surrender your animal to a shelter in a county you don't live in, let alone the animal abandonment charges and putting down false information on a government form. I understand, but I work in another county and can't make it in time to get the dog. Then your mother needs to be an adult and come get her dog. She's got till the end of the day, otherwise we will be filing a police report. Well, she's old. She shouldn't have to deal with this kind of stress. She should have considered that before she lied to us and abandoned her animal. Have you ever seen this dog? It's skin and bones. You are aware that animal cruelty is a felony in this state, right? Fine, I'll come get her dog. We close at X hours. She hangs up. I go to lunch. I doubt I will see her or the mother. but I'm true to my word. If they don't get here by the end of the day, they're going to be dealing with the police instead of us. Edit. Quick update. With 3 minutes left to go till we close and no daughter or grandma in sight. This will now become a police matter. I gave them plenty of time to get here. Now they can deal with felony charges. Edit 2. No word from daughter or entitled grandma either. I doubt they'll show up again at this point. The poodle is doing great though. She is getting the food and medication she needs and already seems more energetic. The plus side is in shelters. The smaller dogs always tend to get adopted first. So once she is medically cleared for adoption, she will most likely get a home that day. Edit 3. Okay, so this should be the conclusion here. The poodle was placed with a senior dog rescue that already has a foster lined up. The puppet has been medically cleared, so they are going to be just fine. As for entitled grandma, the police made contact. She committed the crime in this country, therefore, she is having charges placed against her in this county. Story 7. Bit of backstory. So a fair number of years ago, when I was still dating my now ex-husband, X was living with some friends of ours. Very nice people who opened their home up to him because he chose to live a rather transient lifestyle and needed a place to stay. They had also welcomed in several teenagers in need who went to the same school as their kids, but had been kicked out of their parents' houses because of lifestyle differences. This was long enough ago that everyone involved is now an adult and no one suffered any permanent damage, but fair warning, I am in a hole, and I'm well aware. I'm also now old enough that I've mostly reached the I don't care about your expectations phase of my life. The story. My kid asked if we could go hang out at her friend's house after school, and I didn't have work, and I'd get to hang out with my friends and my boyfriend, so I was more than happy to agree. She had bought just under a dozen fundraiser chocolate bars, I forget the exact number, with her own money, and wanted to share one with her friends before the rest got divided up as gifts for the other people she wanted to give them to. Sweet kid, likes sharing. I asked my friend if we could put them in the fridge because it was super hot out, and I didn't want them melting and spoiling her gifts, so my friend said to put them in their garage fridge because they'll be safe there. Okay, sure. Fast forward a few hours, and we are getting ready to leave, and all but 2 of the chocolate bars are missing. Stolen. Presumably by at least one of the teenagers in the house, but I'm not the type to go accusing people without actual evidence. There wasn't any way to prove which teen had taken them, or if there was more than one culprit, but these were supposed to be mine and my kids' friends. You don't steal from friends, shouldn't steal at all, but definitely not from the people in your crew. My kid was understandably upset and felt betrayed, and I was livid that someone who claimed to be her friend stole from her, hurt her, lied to her, and then tried to blame someone else. Everyone was pointing fingers. I've already mentioned my whole nature, add vindictive to that. I'm also allergic to artificial sweeteners, and X is a diabetic, so I did a little research and found which artificial sweetener has the most laxative effects, and then found which types of sugar-free candy chocolate had the highest content of said sweetener. I bought 5 bags, took the 2 grocery bags full of diabetic-friendly candy to X, and made sure that everyone in the house knew that these were X's candy because he can't have real sugar because of the diabetes, and asked everyone, very nicely, to not eat any of X's candy. And then I waited. All 5 bags were gone after 2 days. X had a couple pieces, and the rest were all stolen. Oh no, this was an entirely unanticipated outcome. Sarcasm. Out of the entire household of 4 adults and 6-7 teenagers, I had trouble keeping track of which one was which. Only the adults and 1 teen didn't end up suffering from massive amounts of diarrhea. Icing on the cake, the teens all shared the same single bathroom.